Hello, welcome back to the Hand of Pod. Today I'm joined by musical maestro, Mr. Matt Smith. No Rich or Torben with us today, but
part-timers.
Well, this is the first one you've done since the episode 1.
Yeah, just because I'm calling them part-timers doesn't mean that I'm not a part-timer.
You're definitely.
In fact, I believe that was exactly your approach to us, to be part-time presenters.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to finally get you on. If you didn't know, Matt was actually responsible for the theme tune that you would have just heard, together with your son Gilbert.
Yeah,
co-writer. I don't know how you shared the responsibility of making that.
it was very much 50-50.
But today we are talking about George Weah, number 97. I've forgotten which number we got to. 97.
I thought you said 90. Is it
97? Yeah, number 97 in the top 100 list. I was going to be talking about centre-backs, and we've decided not to kind of go on the same format we were going kind of fully into like a long list of best centre-backs of all time, because it seemed to be a bit of a crossover into what we're doing on the top 100 and a bit samey. So we're kind of going to streamline it a bit and go straight into just a deeper dive onto the top 100 players. But I did do some research on some centre-backs, and there was one centre-back that I just wanted to share about that I hadn't really heard of before.
Have you checked that he's not in the top 100?
He's not.
And you're not going to talk about
No, I'm not going to go through his whole career. But Giancarlo Soria. And it's quite a hard name to say, and I had to actually Google how to say his name. Giancarlo Soria, who's an Italian player and won the World Cup with Italy in 1982. And because I watched a clip of him, and he was a fantastic centre-back, and he was the clip I watched, he was just such an amazingly kind of balanced and beautiful player to watch on the ball and play the game, that I just kind of wanted to share a clip. So this is Giancarlo Soria. I think this is all at the 1982 World Cup.
Is this all him?
This is all him, so it's all just highlights of him. So he played number 7 for Italy.
But as a centre-back,
yeah.
Looks quite small.
Yeah. Yeah, he wasn't massive. But he looks like a very modern centre-back, where he's kind of quite a ball-playing centre-back. Not the what you associate with a kind of Italian centre-back from the 80s. I'm going to rewind that. Marco Tardelli. So there was Giancarlo Soria just actually assisted that goal, laid it off to Tardelli for that kind of very, very famous celebration at the 1982 World Cup. So yeah, I thought I'd share that clip with you. I just found it quite interesting, and the whole kind of ball playing centre back thing. I mean, probably the centre back that influenced me the most growing up was Rio Ferdinand, and his whole thing was stay on your feet. And you see so many, like when I'm watching football today, I see so many centre-backs and defenders just diving in, especially at United now. You see players like Van Bissaka, who's just constantly just flinging himself around, and then we end up in all sorts of bother because of it. And it was this kind of stay on your feet and keep the ball and keep that control of a centre-back, and being so aware of the space around you, and kind of all the great centre-backs I was looking at throughout history were in so much control of themselves and the game. That's what I've always associated with being a good centre-back, and I'm always quite surprised to see how many modern day centre-backs are just kind of throwing themselves around the place, and you think by now they would have realised and been coached not to do that by by former players like Rio Ferdinand. The man we're here to talk about, number 97 in our top 100 best players of all time, is the president of Liberia himself. Ex-president of Liberia. So when did he step down? Recently? January. Yes, very recently. Known to many in his playing days as simply King George, is Mr. George Weah. Now, he's known as Liberia's greatest ever footballer and one of the greatest, if not the greatest, African footballer of all time. He's the only African to ever win the FIFA World Player of the Year and the Ballon d'Or, both in 1995. He was named African Footballer of the Year twice, with another time in 1996. He was named African Player of the Century. He was known for his speed, dribbling and goal scoring. One of the greatest strikers of the 90s. He started out in Liberia to kind of a very, very poor upbringing and played for a few kind of local teams in Liberia, and then ended up winning the Liberian Premier League as the league's top goal scorer. He was named as the league's player of the season, and all at the same time as working as a switchboard operator. Because obviously the Liberian Premier League wasn't bringing the riches to keep him.
I mean, I'm surprised there was a Liberian Premier League at the time when there's civil war.
Yes, I mean it was probably very much like the Sunday League type thing we see today. But then he signed for a Cameroonian club, Tonnerre Yaoundé, in 1987, and it was actually the Cameroon national manager who'd seen him play in the Cameroon League, who recommended to a friend of his, a certain Mr. Arsene Wenger, who was Monaco manager at the time. Ended up signing for Monaco in 1988 for £12,000 at the age of 22. So I think Wenger was taking a bit of a punt on a recommendation.
A 12
gram punt, and just
it's not much of a punt.
Not much of pretty much. Yeah, might as well get him over. And I was actually, I don't know if you've listened to the Quickly Kevin episode with Glenn Hoddle, which has come out recently, and he actually talks about George Weah arriving at Monaco in 1988 because he was there with fellow Englishman Mark Haitley. And he said George Weah apparently turned up in his like African robes and sandals, holding a bag with a really, really old pair of boots in, and no one kind of knew anything about him. And then he just started training, and apparently was just incredible, just from the off.
Yeah.
I heard an interview with Arsene Wenger saying how he was quite kind of out of shape when he turned up. His transformation of how he went into this like physical specimen was so fast, and became this kind of incredible athlete as well as goal scorer pretty quickly for them. Won the Coupe de France with Monaco, and they got to the 1992 Cup Winners' Cup final against Werder Bremen, which I was having a little look at that match, and they were favourites going into this match, which was in Portugal, and there was only 16,000 people in the stadium, and it was a 100,000 seater stadium, or over 100,000 seater stadium at the time, and it's known as the most poorly attended European Cup final of all time. In terms of like percentage and total attendance, which is a bit strange. But I suppose Monaco don't actually have like a huge amount of fans. Like I think they're
or a massive population.
Massive population. I think their average attendances are about 6,000. So yeah, and they went on to, but they reckon that was some reason why they didn't perform in that final, because it was such a strange kind of dead atmosphere, and they lost to Werder Bremen 2-0. But that team he was in at Monaco, I know Hoddle and Haitley were there when he started, but that 1992 team, he had Emmanuel Petit, Yuri Djorkaeff, Lilian Thuram in that team that that Wenger was putting together.
I can't imagine many players that Wenger signed were at the level of fitness that he expected.
No, well, especially early 90s. He was kind of changing the game right then, wasn't he? Bringing that fitness into the game, which he did with Arsenal. Yeah, then he signed after that season. He signed for PSG for 6.5 million. So not a bad bit of profit from the 12 grand.
Good tax-free profit.
Yes, yeah. Had a really good spell with PSG. He was top goal scorer in the 94-95 Champions League, and he scored a wonder goal against Bayern Munich in the group stage, which got him a lot of press, and potentially that season in the Champions League led to him being signed for AC Milan in 1995. I mean, he goes into one of the great AC Milan teams at that point, and was competing for a place up front with certain Roberto Baggio.
How much did they pay for him?
6.9 million. So pretty much what they paid for him.
That's mad.
Yeah, 6.9 million after signing him for 6.5.
Why did they sell him?
Yeah, I don't know.
Presumably he'd only been there for a year. So
3 years. So 92 to 95 was at Paris. So maybe he was running out of his contract.
He only had a year.
Yeah. So he goes to Milan to play under Fabio Capello, and he must be
late 20s now.
Yeah, so he was 22 in 98. So late 20s. So probably about 28, 29 when he signed for them. He was their top goal scorer in his first season with AC Milan in Serie A. Kind of became known for scoring great goals at Milan rather than the amount of goals he scored. He wasn't scoring left, right and centre, but he was especially known for a certain goal, which I remember, and I don't know if you remember, Matt. It was against Hellas Verona, which was known as the coast-to-coast goal, where he picked up the ball from a Verona corner on the edge of his own box and skipped through pretty much the entire Verona team to take it down the other end and score. I remember watching that on Gazzetta Football Italia on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, and it's the one goal that you remember from George Weah.
Yeah.
But I watched it back. I watched it yesterday, along with like a highlight reel of all of his goals. I would argue it's not his greatest goal.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
For a start, hardly anyone challenges him.
Yeah,
they're like, and it was in the 88th minute. They were already 3-1 up. So Verona, the players are dead on their feet. He stumbles through two players and luckily gets them all out, and then no one else challenges him. But then he's got many other goals that are actually more skillful and better shots or better dribbles, actually taking it past people that are trying to tackle him. But it kind of disappointed me because you hope when a goal happens,
when a goal's got its own name as well.
Yeah, but you hope that a goal that is judged by the circumstances under which it was scored, and people always talk about, this goal will be remembered because of the context of which it was scored.
Yeah, definitely.
But that George Weah goal, it wasn't a last minute winner. It wasn't against a team that, but that's the goal we remember.
Yeah, wasn't it the first game of the season as well?
Probably.
Yeah.
But so many better goals in his highlights.
It's very strange because every other goal, like a legendary player is known for a certain goal. It's usually because of the situation as well, like you say, like the Van Basten known for scoring in the 1988 final, Maradona goal in the 86 World Cup, and it's all the situation. Like if you look through each of their highlights, they potentially scored better goals in their careers that you don't know but they're known for that goal because of the situation, whereas it's the opposite for George Weah, where he scored better goals, but he's known for this goal for some reason.
I suppose there aren't many goals where someone's dribbled it from one area to the other.
From one end to the other, yeah.
But it's just that actually he doesn't have to do much with it other than run with it.
Oh yeah, but pretty much from his box to the halfway line is just empty space.
Yeah.
He just walks forward. Yeah, that's it is quite funny. But yeah, there's so many good goals he scored.
So many good goals. So many good goals.
Yeah.
And great headed goals.
Yeah, great headed goals. But yeah, there's a ton. I mean, even for PSG and Monaco, like I saw highlights of the goals he scored for them, and like I said, he didn't score a silly amount of goals, but so many great goals he did score, and he was coming wide. He was one of the kind of early adopters of that striker that would drift out wide or drop back in to get the ball and make the run. Whereas previously the traditional kind of number 9 would just stay up front and wait for the ball over the top or into feet rather than coming back to get it, which then we saw a lot more with people like Ronaldo.
Yeah. The thing that struck me on watching highlights of him is just how strong he was on the ball, and so many shots where it's just like the strength behind the shot, the strength behind the header, the strength of how he controlled the ball, and people just could not get it off him.
Yeah,
because he was so strong on the ball.
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, that year he won the Ballon d'Or in '95 with Milan. It's his first season with Milan, and basically becomes the best player in the world after their first season in Milan. I think that's probably why that goal is so famous as well, because he won the Ballon d'Or that year and he scored that goal.
Right.
That it was just, here's this goal, and this is why this guy is the best player in the world at the moment, because he could run with the ball from one end of the pitch to the other, and it just became so famous. But he actually dedicated his Ballon d'Or to Arsene Wenger.
Did he?
Yeah. So and on stage when he collected it, he called Wenger up onto the stage. He said, "I've won this because of this man who," he said, he was like a father figure to him, and he said he taught me that it was possible that I could do this and I could be this great, and showed me how to do it. And he's like the almost typifies the rags to riches football story. He couldn't come from a more obscure place and background to be a footballer. Like we've never heard of any other footballer from Liberia. I mean, at that point, you'd probably never heard of any other footballer from Africa, really. And the fact he came from nothing, from poverty, and came to Europe and then 7 years later was the best player in the world, winning the Ballon d'Or.
He did the same when he got elected president. Called Arsene Wenger up on.
Did he?
On stage?
Oh right.
No.
I was going to say that's mental. Oh dear. But yeah, the fact he then becomes president is almost another level. It's like you came from nothing to become a footballer and become the greatest player in the world, to then become president of your own country is just insane. But before that, he actually ended up going to Chelsea, where he didn't have the best career. Part of his career in England, but he scored against Spurs on his debut for Chelsea and won the FA Cup with them. Then he had a short spell at Man City, went back to France with Marseille, and ended his career at Al Jazeera. And he had 75 caps for Liberia, but unfortunately was never able to take them to the World Cup. He played in a couple of African Cup of Nations with them, but he was always very much championing his playing for his country, playing for Liberia, and was desperate to make them good. And he actually played his final match for Liberia in 2018 at the age of 51.
Did he?
While in office as president, he came out of retirement to play in a friendly against Nigeria. And after the game, his number 14 shirt was retired for Liberia.
Right. Did you know, I read that he, when he was properly playing for Liberia, he financed the team himself and he managed the team himself.
Yeah.
So the team wouldn't even exist without him. And they came really close to qualifying for the World Cup one year as well.
Yeah. It was a real shame. He's one of those players, like greatest ever players never to play in the World Cup.
I think he'd be higher up on the top 100 list if he had some World Cup highlights reels.
Yeah.
If he'd have scored a couple of important World Cup goals, I think he'd be much higher up on the list.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's definitely players that are up on the list because of what they did at World Cups, because they're known for certain performances at World Cups, and it kind of, even just playing in a World Cup is kind of on a player's CV. But yes, you might be saying that about Erling Haaland in the future. Yes, I mean, Henri, I actually heard Henri talk about George Weah as one of his idols. Right. Another man who went through the Monaco system.
Henri must have been in the youth team or something when Weah was there, right?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, left in '92, so he would have been very young. But yeah, it was that, like I was saying, it was that kind of coming out, drifting out wide that Weah did, that Strike Number 9s didn't do before, that Henri was talking about. I heard him in an interview recently, so naming Weah as one of the players who started doing this type of movement that then Henri brought to his game and kind of became known for, that loads of strikers do now. Yeah, and obviously after his career, he became a politician.
Yeah. I thought I would research into his political career as I knew you'd be researching all of his football career.
Yeah.
But he first ran for president in 2005 after the country came out of civil war a couple of years earlier, and where he'd been, he was an ambassador, a UNICEF ambassador,
right, for
the country, where he'd been living in New York, and he kind of moved back to the country when the civil war ended in 2003. Ran for president in 2005 for the Congress of Democratic Change Party, and he got defeated in the runoff. But then he challenged the result and took it to court, claiming and actually then dropped the case once it had gone to court.
Right.
So he lost the first election he went for, and in 2011 he ran as vice president, and the president he was running vice for withdrew from the race in the second round, complaining about irregularities in the first round. So he didn't win his second one. In 2014, he ran for senator of Montserrado County, and he won. So he got into Parliament as a senator.
Right.
And then in 2017, his party merged with two other parties before the 2018 election to have a better chance of winning against the standing party. So they became the Coalition for Democratic Change,
okay,
in which Weah became the leader of the party and ran for president. He won the first round, it went to a runoff, and then the election was indefinitely postponed as the Electoral Commission had to investigate claims of fraud and incompetence by the candidate who came third place in the first round. So the runoffs, so they always have a first round, then they have a runoff between the top two. So the runoff was indefinitely postponed while they had to investigate this. So whilst he'd won the first round, he still hadn't won the election. One of the claims was that the current president had interfered with the process, the current president who was standing down had interfered with the process to Weah's benefit.
Yeah.
The appeal was eventually dismissed and the runoff was held, which Weah won quite massively and was inaugurated as president in January 2018, which was the first transfer of power between two democratically elected presidents in Liberia since 1944.
Whoa.
So then he stood as president for the next term, so for 4 years.
Yeah.
He built quite a lot of healthcare facilities, paved a lot of the country's roads. He had quite a lot of policies to improve education and economics, and then COVID hit in the middle of his presidency, and so his economic plans were kind of diced. And whilst there has been some economic growth in the 3 years since COVID, it was nothing to the level that he had hoped. Then he, in the 23 election, he lost the first round.
Yeah.
But he came second. He went in the runoff, and he lost the runoff by 50.64% to 49.36% of the vote.
Right.
And he stepped down as president in January 24.
Wow, I'm surprised. I'm surprised he lost. I thought he was really, really popular.
Yeah, but I mean, I imagine I'm sure he'll be running again at some point. It seems that he'll.
Really?
I would think so. Yeah. I think he's still the leader of his party.
Right. So he could be president again.
Yeah, but he's always, throughout his career, took an interest in trying to improve the lives of people in his country, which is, it got quite a high rate of poverty, and from which he came from. So he's got the George Weah Foundation, which is a charity set up to help children in poverty in his country, and so it's very important to him. So I'm sure he'll run again.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it just sounds like he's an incredible person, an incredible football player as well as person, and just his life is just insane. There's not many people, when you're looking at what they've done in their life, that you would have so many different things to look at like that.
Yeah, I would hope that he would come 97 in the top 100 democratically elected leaders of all time. just to marry it.
That's another podcast.
It's another podcast. We'll be running through the 100 greatest democratic leaders.
But I don't know if you've heard of his son, Timothy.
George Weah Jr.?
No, Timothy Weah, who plays for America.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so he's
played in the last World Cup.
Yeah, played in the last World Cup. Yeah, so he plays for the USA, and there was a really nice clip of George Weah at the World Cup in the tunnel after the game when they came off, and embracing Timothy as he comes off the pitch.
Yeah, nice.
So there has been a Weah at a World Cup, but just not George.
Yes, yeah.
That brings us to a close of the legend of Mr. George Weah. So I hope you
still to be written.
Still to be written. Yeah. We'll if he gets president again, we'll do another episode all about him.
We'll do a live stream of the runoff
and the inauguration. Yeah.
Where Wenger will be vice president by then.
Yes. Well, he's isn't he at FIFA now, Wenger? He's
a more corrupt organisation than the Liberia government has ever been.
Yes. Well, he's responsible for trying to change the formats of World Cups, isn't he? Wenger wanted to bring out annual World Cups. Yeah. And they're adding more and more teams, so you never know. Wenger might be responsible for helping Liberia eventually qualify for a World Cup.
He's got an agreement with George Weah to try and make it happen.
Great. Well, Matt, thanks for joining me and talking about George Weah today.
Yeah, it was fun.
And I'll be back next week with number 96, Javier Zanetti, the Argentine and Inter Milan legend. Inter Milan having just won Serie A, so seems fitting to talk about one of their greatest ever players in Javier Zanetti. But yeah, thanks for joining, and I shall see you next time.